Well deserved. King Charles drives the final nail into Harry and Meghan's coffin, the fatal blow named Sir Edward Young. The king hands one of the Sussex's biggest hate figures, Sir Edward Young, the rare honor of becoming his permanent lord-in-waiting. Well, it looks like the dishes are going to be flying around in Montecito. I can tell you that King Charles has decided to accord a rare honor to one of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's biggest hate figures. The king decided to appoint Sir Edward Young as his permanent lord-in-waiting. And so that means that Lord Young, who made headlines after he clashed with Prince Harry in a big way, could end up standing in for the king at events which the monarch cannot attend in person. According to a source, His Majesty has great respect for Lord Young and is grateful for all the work he did for his mother, often under great pressure. This new honor is a reflection of that. Sir Edward was Queen Elizabeth's most senior aide, and he was made a lord when he retired from royal service after 19 years. He decided, though, to stay on after she passed away to help smooth over the change in reign. For a long time, there has been speculation that he was one of the people blamed by Harry and Meghan for failing to accommodate their plans within the royal family. These rumors were confirmed when Harry's memoir Spare were published earlier this year. In the book, Harry accused Sir Edward Young of preventing him from going to see his grandmother to talk to her about Megxit, and Harry also blamed him for making sure that he was stripped of his Scotland Yard security detail after he quit royal duties. Harry even had a nickname for him, the Bee, thanks to his, quote, oval-faced and fuzzy appearance, and also Harry claims that he had a tendency to, quote, glide around with great equanimity and poise. There were 3 top palace advisors who helped to negotiate Megxit, and their nicknames were the Bee, the Fly, and the Wasp in Harry's book. The 3 of them are thought to be the private secretaries of the senior royals at that time, respectively Edward Young, who acted on behalf of the Queen, Simon Case, who worked on behalf of Prince William, and Clive Alderton, who worked for the then Prince Charles. In his book, Harry wrote, I'd spent my life dealing with courtiers, scores of them, but now I dealt mostly with just 3, all middle-aged white men who managed to consolidate power through a series of bold Machiavellian maneuvers. Harry also wrote, they had normal names, but they sort more easily into zoological categories, the Bee, the Fly, and the Wasp. The Bee, according to Harry, was oval-faced and fuzzy and tended to glide around with great equanimity and poise, as if he was a boon to all living things. Harry also wrote that the Fly had, quote, spent much of his career adjacent to, and indeed drawn to, SHIT. The offal of government and media and wormy entrails, he loved it, grew fat on it, rubbed his hands in glee over it. About the Wasp, Harry wrote, because he seemed so weedy, so self-effacing, you might be tempted to push back, insist on your point, and that was when he'd put you on his list. A short time later, according to Harry, without warning, he'd give you such a stab with his outsized stinger that you'd cry in confusion. Where the F did that come from? But Lord Young, according to Harry, was considered an outstanding public servant at the palace. A Buckingham Palace spokesperson confirms, the king has been pleased to appoint the Lord Young of Old Windsor to be a permanent lord-in-waiting to His Majesty. Well, okay, Harry still believes that the world revolves around him, and it looks like he still did not understand that the late Queen always employed other people to carry out duties that she may find unpleasant. Now, maybe they're considered the hammers, but she certainly was the iron fist behind the hammer. And the fact that he thought he could push them around, well, he found out he couldn't. In fact, I'd say anybody who messes up Meghan and Harry's little schemes is doing a great job, and if they're all upset in their playpen in Montecito, well, too bad for them. Senior palace staff in this example, the late Queen's private secretary, Sir Edward Young, well, they don't act all alone. They're under the strict orders of the monarch, and Lord Young followed those instructions to the T. I think this was a wise move indeed by the king. The courtiers deserve an absolute medal because it's obvious that they did everything they could to make Harry look like a much better person than he really is. And as for Megxit, well, Harry should have learned something when he was in Japan. Now, Princess Mako is the eldest daughter of the crown prince, I think, and she gave up everything after she decided to marry a commoner, and that's protocol. There wasn't any drama about it, there was no fuss. Harry should understand it's nothing personal. Either you're in or you're out, and Harry, you don't run the show. What Harry never seemed to appreciate, though, was that the late Queen was very ill even at that time, and so of course she found Harry's whining incredibly stressful. It was difficult for her to handle. Sir Edward was just trying to look after her. And as for the security, well, the setup is not all that complicated. Even Harry, with his very limited intelligence, surely could understand it, and he was raised to understand it. You see, without the institution, the servants, the hangers-on, and the sycophants, there is no institution. And Harry is discovering that maybe you can take the boy out of the palace, but the institution is going to continue to thrive. And the boy, well, he becomes a nobody, and he doesn't appreciate that. He's acting like he's still a prince. He's out there playing polo, trying to give speeches, trying to tell us all how to live our lives. But you know what? We don't care. We're not listening. Harry and Meghan are trying to give those American children those titles, but it doesn't matter. We already know the reality of the situation. So maybe Harry and Meghan should just be grateful that the king didn't make him a duke and take away those titles. I think that Sussex deserves a duke who honors the title through hard work and commitment to the royal family. Other people continue to rise while Meghan and Harry continue to fall. Jason Knopf was honored for his service. William and Catherine are at an all-time high for their popularity ratings, and now we're seeing what's going on with this man. I think obviously there is a lesson in all this. You see, these men had standards that they actually lived up to, and the two of them who now live in America, well, they didn't like hearing the word no. These public servants only advised the royal family. Now, if the late Queen or King Charles or Prince William had disagreed with some of their advice, then something different would have happened. And as for security, well, the monarch and the heir, along with their spouses, get it 24/7. Acting royals, though, only receive it when they're busy carrying out royal engagements, and that's the only time. Harry does not fall under any of these descriptions, and Sir Edward Young didn't have a thing to do with it. Those were the clear rules. But Harry is still convinced that the world revolves around him, so it looks like he still does not understand that the late Queen always employed other people to carry out duties that she may not want to do herself. I mean, the thing is, Harry can't be upset about this. He was raised to be able to understand this system. And if Harry had decided to just leave royal life and live a quiet, private life with his family, then everybody would have understood. Even if Harry wrote a book called The Real Power at the Palace and criticized the courtiers and the palace machinery, then the public could have probably understood that as well. It's the way that he attacked his own family and the way that he revealed so much private information about them that he has turned people off because he is so incredibly disloyal. It was such a violation of trust. And it's not all that often that the firm can really fight back, but it looks like they have locked the door on this grim chapter. Harry still hasn't really come out and said for sure why he is so angry, but it seems like he was happy in Japan. He needed to show some respect there too. The royals don't really run the show, in case he never realized that. The royal advisors run the show because they're the ones who understand how to keep the show going. But anyway, bravo Charles. I mean, whoever he appoints has nothing to do with Harry whatsoever. Harry's not a working royal anymore, so he doesn't have any say in anything. I think this was a brilliant move by the king. The king is quietly showing who's in charge, and it's not Harry, so good for him. I mean, if this man is so disliked by Meghan and Harry, then actually that tells me he's probably a really good guy. And you, what do you think about them? Please tell me your opinion below in the comments section, and we can also talk about the Sussexes. If you preferred our video this evening, don't forget to like and share it with anyone else who needs, and don't be afraid to click the subscribe button to get more updates in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in, have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back to see you all tomorrow.